concerned should you be about a George Pickens holdout now? Where will Ty Simpson go in the NFL draft this weekend in Pittsburgh? And how should you be treating Brandon Ayuk in both dynasty and redraft leagues at the moment? Plus the 2025 three-time FFPC Dynasty League winner, Tom Weaver, is going to hop aboard to talk Dino draft pick strategy, trading his favorite rookie sleeper this year, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than me who listen.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome into the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com, MyFFPC.com, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. I am, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, one Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to break down potential rookie landing spots and more, plus the 2025 three-time FFPC Dynasty League champion, Tom Weaver, is going to talk Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving, Harold Fannin, the NFL draft, and so much more. If you want to connect with us on X, please do so at HSFF Hour. I'm at Eric Balkman. Of course, check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. You can compete against me there. It's a lot of fun. Leagues filling up. Just completed another one there today with the KFFSC. Look forward to drafting another one there shortly. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them in. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, X posts, and emails in the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer tonight and my best friend Bryce, as well as our producer and mutual friend Rob. Exciting times at the FFPC. Dynasty and Empire Orphans still available. We have dipped below the 120 team mark for orphans that are still available. The teams between 500 and 1250, you'll never see better prices than that. It's been unbelievable what we have for you there. Many of those are discounted for many cheaper than $1. So check that out at myffpc.com. Thanks to your support, the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball and Never Too Early Superflex Best Ball tournaments are sold out for the season. So if you are looking to get in a draft day draft tomorrow, there are none available. However, the FFPC Best Ball Tournament is back better than ever. Instead of a $300,000 grand prize this year, we had up to a $400,000 grand prize, $125 entry. And of course, the Superflex Best Ball Tournament off and running as well. We added nearly $50,000 to that prize pool, $35 to get in, and you're still eligible for a $100,000 grand prize. Speaking of being eligible for a $100,000 grand prize, the Baby Gorilla features a $125 entry fee. This is the managed format, same format as the Big Gorilla, and you can win $100,000 there. The FFPC Big Gorilla is off and running as well. $350 entry, $1 million grand prize. The 7 Bananas promo has been huge for the second straight year, and the early Rampage tournament is off and running. So if you are playing in the Big Gorilla right now, you are basically getting two entry fees into one entry fee for two separate tournaments right now. So check that out at myffpc.com. We also have a special announcement coming with the FFPC on a new format. If you are subscribed to the FFPC Insider email list, which hopefully most of you who are watching are, you'll find out tomorrow morning what that special announcement is. We're pretty excited about it. We've been working on it for a while, and hopefully you like playing in it as much as we like crafting it together. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which I'll have more details on the schedule for NFL Draft Week coming up later on in the show. For now, we have to bring on the co-host with the most, ladies and gentlemen, the boss, the head honcho, the big cheese, the commish, and the evangelist for the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, KFFSC.com. He is the incomparable Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, happy NFL draft to you.
Buddy, let me preach to you, buddy. I'm telling you what. Adam Hunn's already started the show out great. Balky wasn't already full-time, could have fooled me. Yeah, that's about right, Adam. You're spot on there, bud. How are you, brother?
I am all right. It's a weird feeling the night before the NFL draft because we've been prepping for this for 3 or 4 months. And I feel like the more we've talked about it, the more we've broken down these prospects, the more we've delved into it. I feel like the less we know. And as weird as that sounds. And I feel like we're going to find out how we value these guys and how good we think of pros are going to be. We're going to find out how the NFL feels about them tomorrow. And the NFL draft every year is a weird kind of situation. You just never know exactly how it's going to go. I think it could be even weirder this year, Ferrell. I don't know if I have read and heard that a lot of teams have the same handle on this draft as they had in years past. So we could be the winners in this, the spectators, the fans. We could be the ones that benefit from seeing maybe not only a crazy night of Thursday drafting, but Friday and Saturday as well.
Well, yeah, Saturday is always the most interesting day of the drafting and what comes after in the world of street free agency. But there are players in this draft that, especially for the dynasty players, you've really got to watch Friday late, Saturday all day. The guys that are being drafted there, as far as the NFL grades, are not a whole lot different than the guys that will be going in the second and third round. Matter of fact, there's a number of teams that will tell you that there's only really about 15 players in the draft with a first-round grade. And that's why there's all the speculation that some of these teams might be trying to trade back. I think that when I went to the All-Star games, the Senior Bowl, the American Bowl down in Orlando, Florida, I saw a lot of talent, and I would love a chance to draft these guys, and they're still working. You know, the way that they do it is they break down at this point in time positions, and I'm still getting calls right now, and I don't have anyone that's projected to go in the first 2 days. So these guys are working hard to try to. The proverbial look under every rock to find the player, double check and triple check, make sure everybody's healthy. It's an exciting time, and I'll be so glad when it's over.
Yeah. I understand the feeling. Maybe not to the degree that you feel it, but I definitely understand the feeling.
Well, and I think everyone in drafting, I think all our dynasty players are ready to get to the draft.
Yeah,
and I think this show has done a great job preparing them. We've had on some wonderful guests that have brought in different perspectives about Dynasty, and that overlaps into all the other things we're doing, the Gorilla, the Baby Gorilla, and you're going to announce hopefully some of these great best ball leagues that are forthcoming tonight. And, it's just a wonderful time to be in fantasy football, and I couldn't resist. I had to join a Big Gorilla this week. Those Gorillas just got me. That's all I'm saying.
We mentioned the special announcement. We're going to make a special announcement about our Friday show, right? And then are we making a KFFSC announcement tonight, or are we saving that for tomorrow?
I think we're saving that for tomorrow night's guest.
Okay. All right. So
we'll have it on Friday.
Friday, yeah. So we will tease. Well, should we even announce who the guest is tonight?
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. It would remind him to be present.
Right. Yes, exactly. So we will announce that at the end of the show. And then for Friday night, you want to be tuning in for a special KFFSC announcement as well, which is going to be a lot of fun. We mentioned rookies, Ferrell, and one guy that I don't think will hear his name on Thursday night, but I bet he hears it on Friday in Pittsburgh, is Chris Bell, right in your own backyard at Louisville. Ian Rappaport has reported that he is ahead of schedule in rehab. He's coming off the torn ACL. This according to Chris Bell's agent a day before the NFL draft has started. So you can kind of connect the dots a little bit there. But this was a late 2025 tear in his knee. 72 catches, just over 900 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 11 games last year. And if he never tore his ACL, Ferrell, certainly we'd be looking at him being a first-round pick this year. We'll see what happens. What goes on in the second or third round. But as dynasty owners go, knowing that you could get a first-round talent at a bargain price in your rookie drafts, no matter where he goes. What's the right approach for Chris Bell? Do we just believe like he is going to get back to that level that he was playing at Louisville? And quite frankly, how good was he from what you saw at Louisville last year?
He quietly grows on you. Think A.J. Brown body type. He's kind of receiver that moves across the hashes in the college games and makes the good catches, and then the magic happens. Once he gets the ball in his hands, he has great long speed. He doesn't necessarily move in and out of the cuts. He's not an artistic receiver, kind of like your JSN or some of the other players we might talk about later on. But he's a kind of big-bodied receiver that uses that body to his advantage. And I think he's going to be a better NFL player even than what he was in college. He's the kind of receiver, I think, that a quarterback begins to love because the quarterback knows he can count on him. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. He's got a big catch radius. If he had gone to the combine, he would have tested well. I think you can be all into this player. He's a speed builder when he gets the ball in his hands. And, he's got the size that the NFL is looking for because he's to present-day linebackers, he's the same size of most of them. So I really like him.
Yeah, and I think that I swing big in rookie drafts. I want to swing for the home runs. Mm-hmm. And if Chris Bell gets back to 95% or 100% of what his knee was like prior to this, then he should be a home run, so to speak. I mean, he's still got to be, good enough to play at the NFL level, but I believe in it. And I'll be drafting him as such. Maybe I'll be drafting a little bit higher than some other people, maybe not. And landing spot will be key too. Plus, we don't know exactly how much action he's going to get in his rookie season. But I'm definitely more pro Chris Bell than anti Chris Bell at this point.
You can't draft him. I don't think a team could draft him and not eventually get him on the field. He's not going to disappear. He's not going to disappear on the depth chart. So I think you're in redraft, but definitely in dynasty, especially if you're a patient dynasty player, you're going to have what you want to look about it. But in landing spot, all of that comes into play. But I think he's going to be a fantastic NFL contributor.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I always like seeing guys bounce back from injury, and this would be a story and a guy I'm definitely rooting for sure. Mm-hmm. George Pickens in the news, and maybe not for the right reasons, and maybe this is more of a Jerry Jones thing than anything else, Ferrell. But we had Stephen Jones, according to the reporting from John Machota, who covers the Dallas Cowboys. Stephen Jones, the executive VP for Dallas, said, quote, "There won't be negotiations on a long-term deal for George Pickens this year." So we're probably not going to, at least at this point, and I'll set this up. At this point, we don't plan on seeing an extension done. Stephen Jones said that Pickens is going to play on the franchise tag this season. Now, this comes just a few weeks after Jerry Jones told reporters that he has long-term plans for George Pickens on the Cowboys. And we have seen the Cowboys kind of play hardball with players like this before. Ezekiel Elliott, Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott, the list kind of goes on. 1,400 plus yards, 9 touchdowns last year. He will be a free agent in 2027. As much as this just came out of the blue, I wonder, Ferrell, if this could just disappear just as fast and we find out that they've agreed on a long-term contract well before training camp. I don't know if this Pickens situation strikes you as more of the same from what we've seen in the past with Dallas playing hardball with some of these, building block type players. Or do you think this one is a little bit different? How are you viewing the Pickens situation right now?
Well, I'm going to draft this player, and I'm going to draft him as often as I can. I believe that I would get into players' ear, and I would say, you know what, brother, buck up. You made $4 million last year. The system now has you tagged and you're looking at $27.3 million. Now buck up and take your $27.3 million like a real man and go out there and enjoy the benefits of being a Dallas Cowboy. He was on his best behavior. He's perfect. We talk about landing spots for players coming into the league. We also talk about what a change of scenery can do for a player. And you and I talked about it, Balky, very early on the show. Mm-hmm. Get him out of where he was and get him to a place with a veteran quarterback that could really throw the ball. Boom, you got it. And the other receiver, CeeDee Lamb, is there too. And that's part of his problem. How do you pay both these guys? Plus, you have Dak Prescott, one of the best paid quarterbacks in the business. Dallas may want to extend this contract, but they might not be able to do it without getting other players involved to taking pay cuts, and it could be too convoluted. I think that we're in a situation here where this player needs to continue, but he was at peace on the field this year because he was at peace off the field. He needs to continue with that. He's going to be a very, very wealthy NFL player throughout the years. And hey, get the Dallas Cowboys into Super Bowl contention, and you'll want to be a Cowboy for life. There's no better place in the world to play football when you're winning in Dallas.
Yeah, except for Green Bay, Wisconsin. I totally
agree. Now, Balky, you know that's good, but it's not Dallas. You've got to understand.
No, I agree. I do understand. The last thing I want to bring up here, before we get into tonight's guest interview with Tom Weaver, tell me how much you're buying into this. Adam Schefter, who I think measures his words carefully and doesn't always report on everything, unless he thinks it's somehow newsworthy. Okay. Said he would be watching to see if Atlanta is going to find a trade partner for Kyle Pitts, who they are open to trading away. Now, Ian Cunningham, who's the new GM for the Falcons, said it's his job to listen when he was asked about the potential for moving Kyle Pitts, even after tagging him with the franchise tag. And certainly Atlanta, I mean, if you want to connect the dots here, they don't have a first-round pick this year. I'm sure they'd love to have a first-round pick. Getting Kyle Pitts' salary, this huge chunk of change that they are committed to this year, off the books for a player that I think they like but perhaps don't love. How much smoke do you think there is right now to Kyle Pitts not being an Atlanta Falcon this year and perhaps maybe not being an Atlanta Falcon as soon as tomorrow?
If you could tell me that the new coaching staff doesn't reward a tight end and doesn't want to feature a tight end in their offense, I might be able to buy into this, but I don't believe it. I don't understand why after coming off his best year that he's possibly had, and I don't understand why with the fact that you've hamstrung him somewhat with poor play at the quarterback position. To me, this is the perfect player. He's a young player. He's a player that we just saw a better season from. Why would you want to trade this as another draft pick? Hey, and I'm a first-year general manager. Sure, let's trade Pitts, and let's let everybody say, hey, what'd you get for Pitts? No, thank you. I'll just keep Pitts, and I'll go on with it. That'll be fine with me. I'll keep Pitts, and I'll trust this new coach to help him become a better ball player.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I'm excited for that too. The other thing when it comes to Pitts, if he is traded, it's going to be a team that wants to utilize him. So if you have Pitts, you shouldn't feel like this need to move him now, because I think if he does go to a new spot, he's still going to be utilized heavily.
And it's so you're just looking for a business. You're trying to match business situation with who you move. So yeah, okay. So because of the business situation, you might want to move him. No, I'm the new general manager. I'm not moving this player.
Mm-hmm. And Adam Hahn chiming in too. If he is the Kelce successor, it hurt him this season, and it would, because obviously you have Travis Kelce still there. I do think that I know it was a 3-year deal that he signed, but I think it's more like a 1-year deal, and then after that, they kind of, Kelce's on a year-to-year deal right now.
Kelce will still be playing when Pitts retires. He'll still be.
Yeah.
Pitts
There are going to be guys that are going to be drafted in the first round, Ferrell, that will retire before Travis.
It could happen. Tomorrow. And what do you say, Boggy? There's a non-zero chance.
There's a non-zero chance of that happening, my friend. There is a 100% chance that we're going to have a great guest on tonight, and I'm going to bring him on right now. He won 3 FFPC Dynasty leagues last year alone. He's here tonight to share his advice for success in the FFPC Dynasty streets, as well as some of his insight into Dynasty Fantasy Football and the 2026 NFL Draft itself. Please welcome onto the program, Tom Weaver. Tom, happy NFL Draft Eve to you. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Likewise, gentlemen.
Look at old Tom. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
We are excited to have you on tonight. And the first thing I ask everybody this: when you're not winning all these FFPC leagues, what are you doing for a living, sir?
Well, for a living, I do like long-term rentals, investments, and housing flips as my main course of action. I dabble in ticket broker work on concerts, and so kind of grinding a couple different places and being diversified. I used to work for Pfizer in HR and the benefit side of things, working on pension plans and 401k plans. But when that came to an end, just tried to do some other things, and it became pretty successful in that, and just being able to be your own boss is a wonderful thing.
That's quite the switch from careers. That is wild, Tom. But there had to be a certain amount of terror is too strong of a word, but definitely nervousness switching from one area like that to something completely different.
Right. I mean, when and not to go too deep into the history, but when Pfizer lost its exclusivity on like Viagra and Lipitor, 2 of their major drugs, they let go a ton of the sales force at the time. And being in HR, we were kind of more like overhead versus someone trying to like find new medicines in the pipeline. So eventually they were just letting a lot of people go, and it ended up being my time. And during that time, I was, I had season tickets to I lived in the New Jersey area, the New Jersey Devils and the New York Giants. And, I was selling games I couldn't go to, and they were profiting. So while I was searching for another job, I kept increasing that more. And eventually I was making more than I was making in my career before. So nice. I just kind of kept rolling with that, and with new connections, just kind of diversifying, investments and money, just to try to stay on my toes. And one of the reasons I did it is just because sometimes in corporate America, it might not be your fault on why you might get cut. And if I did get another job and, now I'm approaching 50, I might not be an attractive hire if something like that happened again. So I just wanted to kind of control my own destiny, if you will.
That's brilliant. And you became a professional fantasy football player. And let me ask you something. Does the overuse of Viagra lead to unfettered beard growth? That's something that's been passed around in the chat room, and I just want to put
that potentially might be a side effect for some.
Okay, yeah. See, there's things we just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
also learning to turn your hair white. So there's a lot of things going on about that. So I don't. Hey, we're playing Dynasty together. I have O'Marion Hampton, and I desire the 1.1 draft spot. I really want Jeremiah Love. You've got the 1-1. Will you take Hampton from me for that 1-1? Is that a good decision?
I'm leaning much more to Love in this particular case. I
am too. Here's another one. Drew Maselli just checked in with this. He wants to know, if you have the 1-1, would you accept the 1-4, the 1-7, and the 1-10 in exchange for it? 3 first-round picks for Jeremiah Love.
No, absolutely not.
You won't do it. You won't do it. You wouldn't trade Kyle Pitts either. You and Ian Cunningham. That's what's going on here.
I've even made trades for Love, offering the 102 and the 103. Sometimes that didn't even get it done. I think the people in the value just have him at just this. He's the clear 101. He's dynamic. In redrafts, he potentially could be the first overall pick in a redraft for many years coming down the pipeline.
and Brother Weaver, I had to work hard to be the best of the also rans to get that 1-1 spot. And I'm proud of it. That's Jeremiah Lowe's my trophy. I'm not trading it.
And,
the other thing, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just going to say, I remember going back, watching those weeks for the teams that didn't make the playoffs and getting to those finals, and like how important that championship in the consolation bracket was, because looking forward and paying attention to, how the class was looking and who was going to be there, you knew who the 101 was going to be and how valuable that, that truly was in terms of a difference of, of what you could do with the 102 in particular.
You're leading kind of in, and I think I know what you're going to say now, Tom, but you consider not only Love, but the rest of this class and people's perception of it. Maybe this year more so in previous years, that 101 is worth exponentially more than a combination of first rounders this year. You're trading the 101 last year, the 102 and the 103 for sure would get it done, right? Not as the Corso would say, not so fast, my friend, this year, because of at least the perceived disparity between Love and the rest of this class.
Yeah, I mean, I think the market in general has kind of come around to eventually started hearing people like, hey, I don't want to pick in a Superflex league after 105. You can make the argument that maybe like a Casey Concepcion is a solid option at 106, and maybe you could kind of broaden that. In fact, depending on landing spots tomorrow, he might jump one of the other receivers that are the, quote unquote, big three. But leading into the beginning of the offseason in Superflex, you're talking, Mendoza and then, those three receivers. And then after that, people were highly questionable, around the value. It was just a huge tear break in people's eyes. Eventually, at least it was, in my eyes. So I kind of just started pivoting accordingly before other people kind of caught on. I think some people that aren't like full-time or following the content or following, the prospects that are, playing in college at the time, this class was supposed to be quarterback heavy. And
no shares class.
And all of them fell apart. Nussmeier played Kovnick, and Drew Aller, Lenora Sellers was a name that you heard that could be a potential, quarterback coming into the class. And I'm talking about last fall. And you saw the play in college going down, and you're like, okay, so where does that leave this class, in value? And at the time, no one was talking Mendoza.
Yeah. And the other thing too, Chambliss, Manning, and Moore, all three other guys that people were expecting to be in this class, or at least knew that there was a shot of them being in this class. Maybe Chambliss should have been in this class, but they're not. And so it's really watered down the quarterback position in this. Let me just ask you just real quick, as far as like trading draft picks and how you feel about what you should be doing when you should be doing it, basically, I think is interesting, Tom, because we know as it gets closer and closer to the draft, these rookie picks get more and more valuable. We also know, and I've heard from a lot of people, they're having a difficult time moving their 2026 picks in exchange for 2027 picks. Seemingly nobody wants them. I've also heard people are having problems trying to move down in the draft. Not a lot of people want to come up. I think this is what's happening with the Cardinals at pick 3 in the real life draft coming up tomorrow. What's your philosophy? I mean, we could talk about specifically this year, but what's your philosophy sort of how we should be as dynasty owners, how we should be treating these rookie picks once we know what slots they're going to be at after the regular season ends? What's the best plan of action for handling these picks going forward right up until the start of rookie drafts come next week?
Right. I think, you should be following the market and getting ahead of the market before your other, league mates catch on. So, for example, I thought this class was going to be relatively weak, or at least there was going to be the market and the idea that this class was going to be weak. So I made a lot of moves where I was, dealing the 106 through the one. People were at the time in January when these picks were released on FFPC, I was moving the 110 and the 111 for a random 27 first.
Nice.
And it wasn't a problem. And that was an easy thing to do for me because I felt that this is kind of where we were going. And, there might be hits in this draft. Now, you have to decide who they're going to be. You could be wrong. But at the same time, there is the hype of 27 coming up. And now that we're into April, people have caught on, and orphans that I've bought, trying to then move these, later 26 picks has become a little bit more challenging. To do it, you're adding, the second and the third or some other kind of package, or throwing in, a veteran with it to try to get it done. And, most people are saying no to that. I spam offers to everybody and across the leagues in over 100 of these FFPC leagues. So me chatting in the league and having conversations is a difficult thing to do time-wise. But if you stay on it, you could get something done or open up conversation. And really, it just takes one person out of the 12, to agree. But now that we're here, I think if people are so against these 26 picks, it actually offers the other opportunity that maybe you could kind of get some on the cheap. So it's kind of a little bit of an ebb and flow. If everyone hates, draft capital is going to mean something tomorrow, and something we'll probably touch on too. Is like, who's the RB2 in this class? Well,
if you look at, oh, I interrupted you, Tom. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, landing spot. If someone ends up going to Seattle pretty early, that's going to look attractive. If someone gets like early round 2 draft capital, that's going to look attractive, and that's going to make that, say, that 107, 108 look better than it kind of currently does. And the same thing with like the tight end, like at Eli Stowers. Does he find the right landing spot given his like skill set and what the potential usage could be? He might move up, or he could go the other way. But there's some of these picks that I think are going to be, more valuable than people are considering in that like 106 to like 108 to 9 range. And maybe it offers an opportunity to go back the whole other way and, find a way to acquire one of those on the cheap.
I have a question, Tom. How much redraft do you play?
That's what I used to do all the time. I'm in only one now. I kind of quit all the redraft to, get into Dynasty. And just the only reason is it's a home league, and it's with some like older friends and business associates, and I would basically like lose a lot of contact if I dropped from that league. So it's not even about,
the gauntlet has been thrown down. I can see that we're going to have a tough sell getting Tom and his baby blue hoodie down here in Kentucky. We're going to work on it. He's got the right color of sweater on to come to Kentucky. So we're gonna start working on him. We're gonna start getting him in, because you've got a lot of skills, a lot of talent. That's what Billy Hollywood just popped up and says, I don't play Dynasty. So I'm also gonna thwart him. I'm gonna say, we've got a Dynasty orphan in the KFFSC. I'm just gonna give it to Billy Hollywood and make him play at school, and we'll do that. But you've got a real good head for this, and I think knowing the rookie class as well as you do would make you an excellent redraft player. That's all I want to say.
I appreciate
I'm drafting every moment I get a chance. And
right. I mean, I've done some like best ball on the side too, just so I don't have to like.
Now a true confession. You see, Balky, we stayed there. We got a little confession.
A little bit, yeah.
Got a little confession.
There is some. I almost don't consider it like when you say redraft. I just think more like lineup redraft.
Managed leagues, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did for so long. And just, sometimes you're, in the leagues and you catch some injuries or some bad luck. And then, your redraft is just kind of done. Also, from a trade perspective, everyone's going for the same thing, winning that year. In Dynasty, as you guys well know, is just that there's always an opportunity. And every single team, someone's looking for something different if you're active. And I love to trade. I put all my kids to bed at night, and what kind of calms me down is going through all my leagues and like just looking at trades, looking at options, trying to think a couple steps ahead, trying to be better, listening to content. And you don't need to believe all the content you hear, but just to try to take in other opinions, and just makes you think, what am I going to think about that? Maybe I disagree. Maybe I need to reconsider something, along those lines. And, that's, I kind of, it's, I love to do it.
Well, Balky and I want you to help us figure out Tampa Bay. You going to go first, Balky?
Yeah, I'll go first on this. And just real quick, to piggyback on that content comment, I love listening and reading to stuff, not necessarily to find things that I agree with, but things that kind of reinforce my previous beliefs, as well as what are other people saying? You know, what like these other people that I'm playing against in Dynasty, what are some of their viewpoints, so I kind of know how to attack trades and stuff like that. So that's another great aspect. You don't want to live in your own echo chamber in Dynasty. You always want to be, you know, being having osmosis with all the information coming in. Tampa, let's get to it. Jalen McMillan. I know Steve G is in the chat. I know he's a Jalen McMillan fan. He's got to dodge the draft this year. Obviously, you don't want to see Tampa soaking some early draft round capital, day 1 or day 2 draft capital into a receiver to potentially take the place of Mike Evans. And certainly I know they're in the market for a tight end as well. But let's say that Tampa focuses on defense and focuses on offensive line or stuff like that, and they don't really take a receiver. Knowing that Evans is in San Francisco and knowing that it's Chris Godwin, it's Emeka Egbuka, how fantasy worthy do you think Jalen McMillan could be in an offense functioning as the de facto number 3 wide receiver this year? Is he simply bench depth, or would you see him as something more?
I think he has a potential to be more. I'm a big fan. I was accruing a lot of Jalen McMillan over the offseason, and much to my chagrin, they drafted Egbuka. So that kind of nuked some of his value. I held on to him. I didn't even cut him because I really actually believe in the player. I saw in 2024 what he did with the opportunities that he was given as a rookie. He was making plays downfield, making big plays in big games. And that's with, Mike Evans and Godwin there at the time. Part of my concern overall, if I have one, is just, okay, the Tampa Bay offense in 2024 was phenomenal. And last year it wasn't, and it got worse as the year goes on. So which offense are we going to see? Was that due to some, Baker had a lot of it was banged up a lot. Maybe there was frustration. Bucky was hurt. The O-line might have not been great. So what are we looking at, this year? But with Mike Evans gone, I think he's a great, replacement. And Godwin is aging and it might not really be the same after that ankle-related injury that he had the year before. I think the upside, he could be re-injured, of course. I think the upside is he very well could be the second guy there. So I'm all for it. And, maybe he might be depth, in the beginning. Certain leagues like the RotoViz leagues, which are a little deeper, I think he could be a flex, potentially early, some bye week replacement. And then given the right opportunity, if Tampa Bay looks better, he could grow, further. I just took over a team before the call, and looking through the transaction history, saw that someone dropped Jalen McMillan on the, March 31st cuts, which is just hard to believe. And, you could get somebody that has fantasy value for a very cheap cost. In this case, almost nothing. I don't know you probably could have got him. Just someone probably would have just been happy enough to, instead of cutting him, to get a 5th round pick. I'll take that bet all day. It might not work out, but it's a game of bets. And, for the cost, I see a tremendous amount of upside.
Well, that's good, because I see a tremendous amount of upside in this backfield with this acquisition of Gainwell. I think I have to often go look at the stats of how many passes he caught last year. 73 passes. Does he make that in this backfield? Bucky Irving is one of Balky's all-time favorite players. He called him early, he called him often, and he loves him. And yet last year, he played hurt and a 3.4 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. And what does Gainwell bring to this team that with a healthy Bucky Irving, how are Dynasty players handling this? I know how I would like to handle it in redraft, but from the Dynasty perspective, what are you seeing?
He's a very polarizing player. You have the Bucky lovers, and you have the other ones that immediately want to go back to his profile. He's just a guy. He was drafted on day 3. What was going on last year with the injury lingering. You kind of heard some of the little things. There could have been some mental health type of things that he was struggling with, recovering from the injury. Did that impact him in the last couple of weeks when he did return? Because he really wasn't, effective. Tampa Bay, they did sign Gainwell. They gave him a 2-year deal, $14 million. They let Rachaad White walk. He's going to have that role. They didn't sign him for no reason. He's going to catch a lot of balls. On the Gainwell side, I don't think it's going to be like last year when you have Aaron Rodgers just jumping it off all the time and him being on the field because he's good pass pro.
That was necessary, wasn't it?
Yeah. So from a Gainwell perspective, as efficient as he is, it's hard to say that he's going to match what he did last year. And if he somehow did, it would come at Bucky's
It's
expense.
crazy. Last year, 1,000 total yards receiving and rushing and 8 touchdowns. Receiving and rushing this year, sharing with Bucky Irving. What does he do?
I think on the Gainwell side, I'm guessing more. I'm in the more of the range of the 700 perhaps, and maybe like 50 to 60 balls, something more reasonable. Given it's a different offense, I think he's going to be effective. I think he's going to be efficient. I think it's going to hurt because he has fantasy point friendly with the PPR on him, and that might hurt Bucky. But at the same time, there's passes to Bucky that aren't going to always be on third down. He could receive, he could catch. I don't think it's the other consideration too with Bucky is they re-signed Sean Tucker.
Yeah,
he was actually getting goal line work at the end of the year, and Bucky wasn't. I'm not saying I'm projecting that to happen this year, but what if Sean Tucker?
There's a lot of what ifs and a lot of what ifs. A lot of very good players.
Is Bucky closer to the 2024 form, and he's healthy, and the Tampa Bay offense as a whole, improves? Because Rachaad White still had a role then.
Yeah.
It's not like it was, all Bucky. He's totally not nuked because Gainwell's there. Does it limit his ceiling a little bit? Yeah, I would say that it probably does. But I still think he's the main guy. I still think he could be effective. I'm just hoping that the Sean Tucker goal line type of thing, doesn't come into play because
no one
wants touchdowns too, and you start to be more between the 20s type of guy, and you kind of have that like low calorie, touch thing going on, and it's just kind of cap his ceiling. I think he's appropriately placed within the market just because you have that uncertainty. And I don't want to give like a cop-out answer, but I think
it's good. Tom, just to solve, just for my own curiosity, where are you from?
I'm originally from New Jersey. I live in Michigan now since my wife's.
In Michigan. That's good. That's good. Balky, there's a Tom Weaver lingo that, the words like accrue and polarizing. And, lots of people call it joining the show. He called it the call, which means he does this all the time, So I kind of like that. And he just referred to the low calorie. I put that in there too.
I like
good.
A little buzzwords. As you could tell, I kind of listened to some of the content that these other creators make, and these are some of the like buzzwords that like stick.
This stuff is all original.
A little bit sometimes.
Your original stuff. We
had one on Insider Access on Monday night. Matt Price from Dynasty League Football. I can't remember what we were talking about, but we were talking about ceiling and floor versus a player, and he said this guy's floor is so low, the floor is lava for him. I hadn't heard that before. I know James Hicks was chiming in on the YouTube comments on that one.
That was a good one.
Let's stick in the state of Florida, Tom. And I know there's a lot of Parker Washington hype that has been going on this offseason. I want to ask you just straight out, from a redraft standpoint, from a dynasty standpoint, doesn't really matter. I'm wondering what you think the likelihood is that he actually ends the season as the Jaguars' top receiver.
I mean, nothing's 100% certain, but I'm pretty close to 100. I love what he did last year. I love, Trevor Lawrence is effective. I mean, they brought Jacoby Myers in too. They gave him an extension pretty much almost right away because, and that wasn't have anything to do with Parker Washington. That had everything to do with, BTJ not being effective. They tried to do some things within the offense that he just wasn't really good at. So they kind of, made a change there. So I think, Myers is a little bit older, and Parker Washington just looked the part. I mean, he's just more than, the punter kind of kick returner type of guy that people thought. I think if anything, people might be just kind of stuck in that mode where, they're using like a past bias on him and his size, that he's not really the guy. But given the way they run their offense, he's a perfect fit. You'd also talk about, Travis Hunter. They said he's going to play more cornerback this year. That tells you all you need to know about how strong they feel about how, the receiving group and how it currently is. They're very comfortable with them, and so am I. I got him on waivers a lot last year, and he was in my starting lineup and pretty much all of them, as the year progressed. He's a beautiful find. And, Myers is getting up there in age. I think Washington's effective. And like I said, I think, BTJ, supposedly there's rumors out there that they were looking for a first-round pick and would trade him if the right cost, if the right opportunity presented itself. It didn't. He's still going to have a role in the offense, but, I think Washington's going to just be a PPR machine.
And this player, you look at him, he's 5'10", but he's over 200 pounds. He's certainly a solid body to play the position. You've talked about Jacoby Myers. You hear this expression, coach in the locker room, coach on the field, which usually is overblown. But in Jacoby Myers, I've never talked to any NFL receivers who've been in the room with Jacoby Myers that did not say that experience made them a better player. And I think that's one of the things Myers brings to the team. And Steve G makes a comment down here, bad route runner, and maybe so, but there's not an easier thing that you can correct through coaching and through repetition than running bad routes. You can't necessarily speed through them. You can't necessarily increase your speed, but you can understand the kind of routes that the quarterback wants you to run. And that veteran quarterback, there's a little bit of forgiveness in the route running there too. So I love this player. I started with N Dynasty. Of course, it's N Dynasty because it's a damn trade. But I traded the 209 for Parker Washington this year. Did I do?
Oh, that's a gift.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of the trades I saw was more like an early second. But I mean, look at the product. He's still young. Maybe he is a poor route runner, but that wasn't his game. He could learn from that. And to your point with Myers, he could get better. But he also was, regardless of that, highly productive. So I don't necessarily, see that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That changed me. And I mean, look at, that offense hit another gear, during the year. And, when they acquired Myers and started utilizing Washington. And like I said, when you kind of put Hunter back to cornerback, there's a reason for it, that you have that luxury because you're very comfortable with what you got.
Well, and Stephen G has corrected that his comment on Washington.
Oh, talking about BTJ. Yeah, I mean,
and then BTJ might be an undisciplined route runner there with a lot of speed. But you know what? If you stick around a little bit, you can catch any receiver being a bad route runner. It's
guys, before we move off Washington, I just want to say this. I did not realize this. I just looked this up. This will be Parker Washington's 4th year in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And the dude last month turned 24 years old.
Yep.
You think about some of the NIL stuff that's going on. Some of these receivers coming into the NFL are like 22, 23, 24 years old. Parker Washington, this is age 24 season, and this will be his 4th year in the league. You love to see it.
The youth can be served and appreciated in football.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, dynasty value-wise, because he is going into his 4th year, and obviously he wasn't a first-round pick. Hopefully they extend him, because obviously that's a tremendous offense, to be a part of. And Trevor Lawrence took a step forward. There was a lot of Lawrence kind of haters, but he did turn a corner and made major improvements. And Liam Cohen is a genius. So
let's talk about another young player. My first foray into drafting 2026 was the Baby Gorilla. And did you do any Baby Gorillas?
I did, and I'm gonna need to get involved this year.
You got to have some of them Baby Gorillas. But anyway, I reviewed my first few rounds with Balky, And I believe on the 3-4 turn, I'm drafting the 11th, perhaps. In the 4th round, I took Harold Fannin, which all the things we said about Parker, I think we could say about Fannin in regards to productivity and age. Here's a player, a very young player. I think is going to do nothing but get better, and I think he's going to continue to be great this year. Now I find myself a little more polished in drafting. I'm in a Big Gorilla, but I'm still drafting Fannin in the same place. And I think anyone that got Fannin, Balky, help me remember, and Brother Weaver, you may know right, you may be right on top of it, but Fannin was not a high draft pick in Dynasty coming out of Bowling Green. Am I right about this?
Well, I mean, it depends on like your definition. I sound like Bill Clinton now. It depends on your definition of high, right?
I think anything like 3-4, 4. Top 3 is top 2 is high, 3 and 4 is in the middle, and 5 through 7 is late.
Yeah, I'm looking this up right now to refresh my own memory. I'm looking back on Fantasy Mojo right now. And by the way, you can look back on this kind of stuff at fantasymojo.com when it comes to previous year's ADP. He has it. If you're playing in the FFPC, get a membership to fantasymojo.com. He was, as far as the rookies go last year, Ferrell, was on average the 307. In FFPC rookie drafts, which was basically, I mean, dude was being, this is crazy to me when you think about it. Arroyo, Fannin, Ferguson, those guys were all going in a clump together behind Mason Taylor. And then, of course, behind Loveland and Warren, who had massive NFL draft capital. But Fannin was like a mid-3rd round rookie pick last year in tight end premium leagues, which is crazy to think about.
I was just curious about that. Are you a big Fannin fan?
I am. I didn't get enough shares last year through the draft, which was unfortunate. I didn't see it coming. You talked about the competition in the MAC, at the time when his profile was there. How is this going to, work? His athleticism, some people kind of questioned. And, then on the Browns with Njoku there at the time, you could see why possibly, he could slide and people just wouldn't believe given, that he was from the MAC. Detractors even now, if there are, I rank him 5th behind the big 4. I have him ahead of Laporta. The back injury kind of concerns me long-term, the way Lions giving out deals, he might not be re-signed just from a financial standpoint. So where might you go? I'm talking like down the road here. Kraft is coming off an ACL. I have no problem with Tucker Kraft. I like Tucker Kraft, but I do have Fannin ahead of him. Detractors are going to talk about he can't replicate what he did last year. Calling it potentially fraudulent productivity because given this is what you'll hear on in some of the streets, just given like they were just throwing the ball and they didn't have any kind of weapons. But what's that different than this year necessarily? I mean, we'll see after the draft, but how is that necessarily changing? The coach Stefanski does love to use the tight end a lot. He's no longer there, so maybe there could be a kind of a concern there. But give me a guy that was like 20, 21, super young, that balled out last year. Why am I really going to expect anything different? He's a weapon. He's an asset. I'm not sure who the starting quarterback's going to be there. Maybe that factors. Maybe the scheme with a different coach and offense changes things. But I mean, they do not have a lot of weapons. We'll see what they do at the 6th pick. Tomorrow, hopefully it's more like an offensive line that could only help the situation versus, adding, one of the stud receivers. So I'm all about him. I was acquiring him this offseason. I knew on startups, he's kind of steamed up to, tight end 5 in near the range that you were referring to. And I think it's a good place, and he was a little bit cheaper than that, preseason, and I think it's well warranted.
Well, Valky, Tom said that I made a good call. that last year's situation was a bit polarizing, and I'm going to accrue points with my selection of Fannin. And you were you're definitely suffering from low calorie intake when you said I spent too much draft capital.
Lingo right work right away, Ferrell. You gotta love it. Of all the complaints that I've heard with Fannin, I never viewed punching above his weight last year as one I took too seriously. I don't see much reason. I mean, obviously there's always something that could happen, but 72 catches, 730 yards, 6 touchdowns. No Njoku this year. I don't see any reason why he can't duplicate or even be better than that in 2026.
And Balky, don't ever underestimate those Bowling Green Falcons. You got one playing defensive line for your Green Bay Packers, and he's a mighty fan.
That is Carl Brooks, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Carl Brooks. Yeah, absolutely.
And he is from Detroit, the state of Michigan, where
Bill Hollywood. That's Bill Hollywood's territory. Bill
Hollywood too, yeah.
And obviously Tom. Tom, we mentioned Fannin was a big time rookie sleeper last season. Do you have any, as it stands right now, before these guys get draft capital? Do you have any favorite rookie sleepers you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah, rookie sleepers.
Well, I have a couple. Chris Bell was on my list. We already talked about him, kind of took my thunder a little bit. No need to kind of reiterate, but just real quickly, given the injury, you might be getting a discount. Some of the news was positive today, so maybe not as much of a discount as I, was hoping for, but his potential and his upside, given where, you're going to be spending in the draft compared to other, players, I like that. And I'm also in tight end premium, I think there's a lot of potential, tight end depth. You got Delp, Justin Jolie, to name 2 of them, Roush, and the list kind of goes on. And kind of like Fannin, you could end up seeing some of these in the late second into the third round for your rookie draft. And they don't need to show too much except a little bit of promise to retain their fantasy value. And then if they actually, pop off a little bit, you have an extremely, attractive asset that, you could either keep or, have the flexibility to, utilize that in some kind of trade and just kind of cash out, if you will, for a different, asset. But in these tight end premium leagues, I think there's a lot of shots you could take in this tight end class, later on and benefit from.
Talk to me about landing spots real quick. We had a guest last week. I don't remember what he said about landing spots, but it drew some of the ire from our group in commentary. Like a young tight end goes to Kansas City, it's a poor landing spot. I think anyone that goes to Tampa might not be the greatest landing spot. I never have loved the quarterback assets. What are some of the red flags and what are some of the green flags for landing spots, and how you see it working for certain individual players? And are there any players that are just wherever they go, they're gonna be excellent?
Yeah, I mean, in the case of Love and some of the other wide receivers, they're going to be fine. You might have preferred landing spots, but some of these studs, they're using high draft capital. They're going to have a plan for them. There's some that aren't, attractive. I mean, like, for example, like New York Jets, there's always been a problem. There's always a quarterback problem. Their offense has struggled, for years, just organizationally, they're not strong. And it's one of those things, like the top-down approach, you always see the same organization struggling quite often. Yeah. The Cleveland Browns, they talk about, that worked, for Fannin. Judkins looked fairly good, as well last year before the injury. I think it might matter, like with specifics. I talked about Stowers, Eli Stowers. He probably is a little bit more specific to what would be effective in his offense. And not only that, is if you go to a bad team and the coach is on the ropes and gets canned and you get someone new coming in, they might have a different whole scheme and how you want to use somebody. And also, that wasn't your draft pick, either. So sometimes I think there could be something along the lines where, going to a poor team that might have coaching changes could impact your future potential value as well. But at the same time, like a Jeremiah Love, I'm more interested not necessarily in this landing spot for Jeremiah Love, but whose value at running back is going to get nuked tomorrow?
Yeah.
Is it Cam Scatterberg? Is it Tyler Algier that some people bought into when he got that deal over there? Is it, is it Pollard? Not that he had the like most tremendous value, in the world. But, I'm just thinking about, if the Giants did, all the Scatterboo fans, his value would just simply be nuked. So, the landing spot also is more, it could be very impactful on the other assets that we have across our dynasty leagues.
Hey, Bulk, here's a wild card question for you, Tom. Guys from last year that were victims of this landing spot fiasco, I can think of a couple. I'm curious if you can think of a couple that in Dynasty are going to be in that free agent pool that you could return to and possibly reclaim as not a rookie draft pick, but as a free agent draft pick in the upcoming draft.
Well, we actually touched on Jalen McMillan. He was one that he wasn't even in the rookie class, but he kind of got impacted by the drafting of, Ibuka. He's thrown back. Some other ones, I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Well, you're thinking I'm going to throw you one, and you might agree with. And this is a player from Kentucky, Western Kentucky University, Malachi Corley, who went to the Jets. It just didn't work out, but he's in Cleveland. That's a hard-working, good-looking ball player that I was high on when he came out.
So many people were high on that guy, big time. So there is a bounce back possibility there. Tom, let's do a couple of emails here for you that came in. Jim in Camden, New Jersey, maybe your old stomping grounds. I don't know New Jersey all that well. But he says, and you touched on this earlier, Tom. He writes, "Hi, Tom. Who is your number 2 rookie running back this season? Thanks." That is Jim in Camden, New Jersey. Thank you, Jim. I'm not going to answer this question for you, but it seems to me that right now, it's kind of a fool's errand to answer this because draft capital is going to influence who the number 2 guy is.
100%. I mean, like from a prospect level, who I think, draft capital aside, who might have like a 3-down sort of possible play might be like Jonah Coleman, whereas Jadarian Price I think will be like a complimentary back, and maybe he doesn't catch, he doesn't have a lot of receptions in college playing after Love. He's a kind of a tough one to kind of gauge because he was behind Love. And the Arkansas running back, Mike, was it Anderson?
Washington.
Why am I thinking Anderson? Getting like my old man here, forgetting names. Yeah, I mean, he had a tremendous combine. Obviously, he got that speed and strength, but his profile, isn't truly effective. So how do you kind of weigh that? And to your point, we touched on before. Who's going to Seattle? Who's going early second? The draft capital and the landing spot, especially in the running back situation, is everything. And you look back to last year, you kind of had your own favorite list of running backs and a heavy running back class. And how much did that kind of move as you went down the scale? Like, oh, I like DJ Giddens. Well, he got drafted by the Colts behind Taylor. That's done. People are on like a Taj Brooks, for example. He never really, saw the field. Caleb Johnson, didn't really pan out. And, with the 3rd round, capital, so where you go and the opportunities that could present themselves is really going to impact who's going to end up being number 2. From the dynasty redraft, rookie draft perspective, we hope that there's a landing spot in round 2, whether, like I mentioned, Seattle, maybe Minnesota does something. They have some questionable running backs with age and an offense that usually is running back friendly. That would boost the value to that player and, jump some other people.
Washington is a team to watch out for Jeremiah Love, but maybe somebody in the 2nd round as well. And that leads me in to our final email for you tonight from John in Poughkeepsie, New York. He writes for you, Tom. What's up, man? How reliant is Jaden Daniels going to be on rookie difference makers in 2026? Thank you, John. We appreciate that. The cupboard is semi-bare. I mean, when you're talking about Treylon Burks right now as your number 2 wide receiver in Washington, Zach Ertz, I mean, we're still talking about him because Ben Sinnott has not become what we have hoped he would be. Daniels probably needs some more playmakers on that offense. Love would certainly be a good one. Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson would be excellent ones. But the fact of the matter is this: the majority of the big-time difference makers, as far as free agents go, are signed. Now, there's still guys like Keenan Allen and Steph Diggs and somebody like that out there, players like that out there. But if the Commanders are going to make a run, they're probably going to have to need some guys who can, chew up yardage and score the ball this season, who are rookies. Tom, in your eyes, how much of Jaden Daniels' success is going to rely on what they do this weekend in the draft?
I think a good amount. Just tossing another name out there in the future. Whenever the Brandon Ayuk situation might unwind, he's been someone that the Commanders might target, as well, to add to the team. That would be another weapon. But I do think they're going to go offense if they keep this pick, at 7. And I think it's, if Love is there, I think they're definitely going to grab him. I don't think he's going to make it there, but hey, we'll see. You never know. Yeah. What's interesting with this draft is it's kind of uncertain who's going to do what and how the dominoes might fall. But then you've also heard, Carnell Tate, as well in that spot. But I think he's going to get a weapon, that's going to help him in one way or the other. I think he has, with his rushing ability, you saw his first rookie year, that team was an older, aging team. They kind of just played kind of above their heads, if you will. And they kind of came back to earth, and he was injured, and I just see a rebound. I see an opportunity, for him, in all our leagues. I think he's a buy. I mean, last year I was making the call, and it was the wrong call in startups. I took him first overall. I took him over Allen. Do I regret it? Sure. But, given his age and what he did in the mobility, for that long amount of time, it's really hard to pass that up. Mm-hmm. And, you compare, and the other guy, like Lamar Jackson's getting up there. He kind of got a little banged up as well. There's kind of some talk that maybe he won't run as much. Well, that that would be very impactful, to his value. So
it was last year. Not as much last year.
And the other thing, you mentioned Tate, Tom, and you look at McLaurin's age. You want a guy that can grow up with Daniels in this league, and certainly getting Tate or Tyson or somebody like that could be the heir apparent to McLaurin. Probably something that Washington should be looking long and hard at going forward as well. All right, final question for Tom tonight, Ferrell. You take it away.
I've got a final question. How sweet it is. It's the same question I get every week. And I imagine you can find value in just about any player. But I'm curious to know if there's a player in the dynasty world that you won't touch based on talent, not age or not situation, but just based on talent, just a guy you don't like. And then somebody that you really got to get without spoiling the game and playing your hand. I think you've already sold us on the fact that if you have that 1-1, hang on to it. But just give us some insight there of some things that are just, sort of the Bible according to Tom, one of your Tom commandments.
Well, some people that I do like this year, I've acquired a lot of, Zay Flowers. I think his usage is extremely high. Now, I felt stronger about that when they had the, Max Crosby trade and they gave up those first-round draft picks. Now that unfolded, it opens the door where maybe they potentially could add a wide receiver, and I feel a little bit, differently about that. Some other type of guys, like if you need like a cheaper tight end, I like Brenton Strange, in that offense. Another one that I would acquire if I'm kind of more in a rebuild type of situation I would just take advantage of the Travis Hunter kind of situation right now and start, buying low. I've seen him go for, second round picks and even late second round picks, in some leagues. And I just think if you could just kind of wait out the year because you're kind of rebuilding anyway, he's going to come back into the fold as a wide receiver. I think he wants to be a wide receiver. And as he gets closer to his next contract, that's who's making the money. And it's going to come down to I can make a whole lot more money at the wide receiver position versus, being a solid or very good cornerback. So I think
he gets almost no snaps at wide receiver this year.
This year, yeah. And like I said, that's kind of why I mentioned like rebuild is just because you might not care. It gives you an opportunity to do that. And in other leagues that you're in, unless you're a total monster team and you don't need that, bench spot as much, you can, get them on the cheap and just kind of like wait it out. But, I agree with that.
I will just say this about Hunter, and I feel like I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. And I'm going to put it in practical dynasty sense here. I don't think now is the right time because I like Hunter and I'm a little bit more bullish on his receiving than Ferrell is. Also understanding the reality. But I think the time to trade for him in dynasty is once we get to training camp and he's working with the ones and he's on defense and he's hardly doing anything on offense because I think now there's a lot of people who invested the 102 in their rookie drafts last year in Hunter that aren't willing to give him away because they don't want to believe it that he is just going to be a defender. But if we get August and he's doing nothing with the offense, that would probably be the time to pounce on Hunter and keep him on your roster. Yeah, I know he's a bit of a roster clogger, but with a talent as rare as he has, I'm willing to clog my roster with somebody like that. And maybe I'll go down with the ship, but that's part of dynasty too, is having your convictions and standing by them, right or wrong. I'll tell you what, our guest tonight, he's been right more than he's been wrong. He is Tom Weaver joining us tonight, the Dynasty DGen himself. Tom, this was a pleasure. Ferrell and I really enjoyed it. I know our viewers, the listeners who will be listening to this tomorrow are going to enjoy this as well. I wish you nothing but the best of luck in all your dynasty leagues this year. Enjoy the NFL draft, not only tomorrow, but the rest of this weekend. And enjoy your rookie drafts coming up in early May. Thanks so much for making us a part of your Wednesday evening, my friend.
Thanks for having me, guys.
See you.
Absolutely. You got it. That is Tom Weaver from Michigan by way of New Jersey. Hanging out with us tonight. Great stuff from him. I learned a lot. Always good to have these players on, Ferrell. And certainly Tom Weaver, no disappointment tonight.
I agree. He's very well organized. He just needs to keep playing. He just needs to come play. He needs to come in redrafts.
Expand his redraft portfolio.
He needs to bring that, great players like him should play all the time.
It feels like we're going to be on the air all the time this week.
I love it.
So we're going to unveil our first announcement tonight. Basically, what we are doing for the first time ever, when the NFL draft round 1 reaches its close tomorrow, you and I will record an extra reps podcast that we will air Friday night. At that same time, the draft at 10 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. That same time, round 3 should be winding down, but you'll get our analysis on all the rookie picks the skill position picks, from NFL Draft 1. You'll get that on Friday night. And since we can't do all this heavy lifting ourselves, we're bringing on a guest. Would you like to let us know who that guest is going to be tomorrow night?
Yes, sir. He makes a return appearance and his first time ever on Extra Reps with us, Mr. Jason Camp. From Ashland, Kentucky, an FFPC player before he made his bones in the KFFSC. And he is, as you remember, Jason, from his previous appearances, he is a very aggressive player, a very knowledgeable player, a great businessman. And we're going to talk a little bit about what fantasy football means to him and some of the decisions that he's made to get further involved with it on our Friday show.
He's not only a dynasty champion, he won one of the $5,000 big payback leagues that we had last year with the FFPC. He won another $1,000 entry one. So he's playing the high-end stuff and beating a lot of really talented players. He is going to join us for that record. Again, we're recording it tomorrow, and then we will air it Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, not only on the FFPC socials, but the HSFF socials as well. Ferrell, I can't wait to talk with you. By the time I talk with you again, we'll have landing spots for all these guys. Very excited to do it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight, and enjoy the first round tomorrow. I'll talk with you in, I don't know, about 23 hours or so, maybe 25 hours. We'll see.
Maybe 25.
All right.
Yes, but whatever it is, Balky, will be ready. Well, thank you.
Thank you. That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, and that's going to complete our show tonight. I want to thank Tom Weaver, Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. This week, in case you missed it, Insider Access normally airs at 7 o'clock Thursday nights. I did it on Monday night this week because I figure a lot of you are probably watching the NFL draft. So we did a special Monday episode with Matt Price from Dynasty League Football. Alluded to it earlier in the podcast or earlier in the show. You can watch that, stream that, download it anywhere you get your video or audio podcasts, along with the FFPC socials, in case you want to watch that back. As I mentioned, Jason Camp joins us 10 p.m. Friday night, the 13-time FFPC champion. We'll also have a special Kentucky announcement that night, which is going to be very exciting. And he will join us for round one recap of the NFL draft. This show will not air on Wednesday of next week. For next week, we are temporarily, it's a 1 week only thing, switching back to Friday night. And we will be on at 9 p.m. Eastern. So 9 p.m. Eastern, 1 hour early, we will have full coverage, once again, of the FFPC Genesis and Revelations drafts. You can register for those. I think both of them have spots open. myffpc.com, under the satellite redraft section. You'll be able to sign up for those, and maybe we'll have you on the show and make a couple of picks on air. That's always fun as well. So that's next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. FFPC Dynasty and Empire Dynasty Orphans available at myffpc.com. Many are reduced. We're down to about 120, 110, right around there. So check that out. Tom was just talking about one of them that he bought tonight. Really good prices on these, especially from the 500 to 1250 entry. A lot of those are $1 or lower. So check that out at myffpc.com. The FFPC Best Ball Tournament has been launched as of, 10 hours or so ago. $400,000 grand prize. That's $100K more than last year, and it's still only $125 entry. The Superflex Best Ball Tournament, you can win $100K there, $35 to join that. Same thing as the Baby Gorilla, $100K grand prize, just $125 to enter there. The exact same format as the Big Gorilla, which once again features a $1 million grand prize, $350 to enter that. Early Rampage and 7 Bananas promos going on there right now, as well as that $25K grand prize up for grabs in the early Rampage tournament. Want to remind you, if you have not signed up for the FFPC Insider List, do so at myffpc.com, because in your email tomorrow morning will be a special announcement on a new format that we are bringing you, and hopefully you're excited about playing in it. In fact, if you peruse the FFPC website, you may or may not see it on there already, but we'll officially announce that tomorrow morning. You'll see that in your emails. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be the next time this channel will be active, will be 10 p.m. Eastern, Friday night, with extra reps, myself, Ferrell Elliott, and Jason Camp. Speaking of Ferrell Elliott, for Tom Weaver, I am Eric Balkman. This has been the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, and as our friend Vince Staffolino reminds us, you are officially over the hump now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Want to wish everybody have a happy NFL draft. We could see 5, 6 receivers go. Tomorrow night, we could see 1 or 2 running backs, 1 or 2 quarterbacks, 1 or 2 tight ends. It's going to be a fun first round. And I'm also excited, too, because I think this year we could see more defensive players and offensive linemen picked. I don't do as much research on that as I used to because I'm focused on the skill position. So it'll kind of be like watching the NFL draft from a non-fantasy point again and just watching to see how these franchises inject some life into them. Some of them more moribund than others, but it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow night. And we'll talk all about it on Friday with Ferrell, me, and Jason Camp. It's going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy it, everybody. Have a great draft. We'll talk with you Friday.